Well, Manson uses this great analogy, the consciousness car.
Right.
Inside, you've got two travelers. There's the thinking brain, that's our rational, analytical mind. It's slow, careful. It's the navigator with the maps.
Okay, the navigator.
And then there's the feeling brain. That's our emotional, intuitive mind. It's fast, impulsive, and crucially, it's the one driving the car. And that's exactly where Mark Manson picks up in Chapter 2 of Everything Is Fcked. The chapter title says it all. Self-control is an illusion. He uses Elliot's story to challenge what he calls the classic assumption.
Okay, so let's dive into this. Imagine a guy, super successful executive, really sharp, good family life, the works.
Right.
Then, bam, these awful chronic headaches. Doctors go in, find this massive brain tumor. It's pressing on his frontal lobe.
Yeah, the book describes it like what? A small fruit basket?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So he has the surgery, they get it out. Physically, he's okay, and mentally. His IQ is still sky high, memory's perfect, he can reason, talk charmingly, all that stuff. But his life just completely unravels, utterly. He gets fired, this high-powered job, gone, because he can't make simple decisions anymore.
Right. Missing meetings, crucial ones, leaving big errors in his work, not fixing them.
And there's that story, it's almost absurd, skipping a huge investor meeting to go track down a stapler.
It really sounds like something made up, doesn't it? How can someone who's still so smart suddenly become so dysfunctional?
And it wasn't just work. His home life collapsed, too.
Became a total couch potato, apparently. Yeah. Missing his kids' games, just indifferent to his wife.
Yeah, she eventually left him. The book quotes her saying he'd lost his goddamn heart, which is just, wow.
And it gets worse from there, right? Financial ruin, getting scammed repeatedly.
Another bad marriage, another divorce, ends up homeless, basically living off his brother.
And the whole time, the doctors are scratching their heads because cognitively, he's fine. He can even talk about his screw-ups, lay out the sequence of events.
That's the part that just stops you. How can you know you're destroying your life, explain how you're doing it step by step, but feel nothing?
Yeah.
No regret, no embarrassment. It just doesn't compute with how we think decision-making works.
Well, this is where the neuroscientist Antonio Damasio comes in. He studied this patient. They called him Elliot.
Right, Elliot.
And unlike the others just running tests, Damasio, talked to him, spent time observing him, trying to figure out why. Why was the smart guy failing so spectacularly?
And he noticed that indifference.
Yeah.
That lack of emotional response.
Exactly, the chilling calm. And then came the big test. Damasio showed Elliot these really disturbing photos. Burn victims, graphic accidents, disasters, stuff designed to get a reaction.
And Elliot?
Nothing. He could look at them, describe what was happening, say, oh, that's a terrible accident. He could even say that before his surgery, he would have felt horrified or sad. But now, just flat. Zero emotional response.
Whoa.
And that was the key. Damasio realized Elliot hadn't lost his reason. He'd lost his capacity for emotion. And without emotion, he couldn't assign value to anything.
Value, meaning whether something was good or bad, important or unimportant.
Precisely. He couldn't tell what was genuinely better or worse on an emotional level. A stapler felt the same as an investor meeting. Losing his wife didn't feel bad. Being homeless didn't feel like a disaster. Reason alone wasn't enough.
You need feelings to care, to decide what actually matters.
Yes. Feelings tell you what's significant, what to move towards, what to avoid. Without that emotional compass, Elliot lost his self-control. Not because he lacked willpower, not because he was stupid, but because nothing registered emotionally, nothing mattered.
Okay, that's huge.
Yeah.
Because if a really smart person can basically fall apart just by losing their feelings, it blows up this whole idea we have about self-control, doesn't it?
Totally.
The idea that if we just knew better or if we just tried harder, had more willpower, we'd make the right choices. Why do I know I should eat less sugar or, go to the gym or deal with that awful work task? And still sometimes just don't.
Right. Elliot's case makes you think maybe it's not just about being lazy or undisciplined.
Yeah, it suggests something deeper is going on. Okay, the classic assumption. That's the idea that our emotions are the problem, right? They're messy, irrational, and our logical, rational mind needs to be the boss, needs to keep them in check.
You got it. That idea has been dominant in Western thought forever. Socrates, Descartes, Kant, even Freud, sort of. Reason is the noble charioteer wrangling the wild horses of passion.
So if you lack self-control, according to this view, it's because you're failing to control those horses.
Yeah.
It's a moral weakness.
Exactly. A failure of character, a lack of discipline. Think about how we sometimes judge people who struggle with weight or smoking or depression. There's often that underlying assumption, just get a grip, use your willpower.
And the most extreme, kind of terrifying attempt to enforce that idea was the lobotomy.
Yeah, invented by Igas Moniz. He actually won a Nobel Prize for it, believe it or not.
Which is wild. The whole idea was to just sever connections in the frontal lobe to dampen emotions, like anxiety, aggression.
Pretty much. But the results, often horrifyingly similar to Elliot. Patients didn't become calm, rational super beings. They became apathetic, passive, no drive, no initiative.
Like mindlessly satisfied zombies, as the book puts it.
Yeah. It's telling that the Soviets banned it pretty early. They argued it turned people into idiots, said it was inhumane. Kind of ironic, huh?
Definitely. And then you have someone like Tom Waits, the musician. Famous quote, right?
Yeah.
He said he'd rather have a bottle in front of me than a frontal lobotomy.
Yeah, even struggling with his own demons, he recognized that those messy, difficult feelings were tied to his creativity, his passion. Better the struggle of feeling too much than the void of feeling nothing.
So the classic assumption tells us our failures, procrastination, bad habits, whatever, are because we're weak-willed. We need to control our feelings better.
And this fuels that whole self-help cycle, right? Change yourself, become a new you. We try to just power through using willpower, we fail, and then we feel inadequate, like we are the problem.
It's tempting, though. Believing we can control everything with pure logic feels empowering. Give you hope, makes you feel like you're the master of your fate.
But Elliot and the whole grim history of lobotomies, they show us that assumption is just wrong. You need emotions. They aren't the enemy. They're essential for deciding, for acting. They're the engine.
Okay, so if reason isn't driving, what is?
Well, Manson uses this great analogy, the consciousness car.
Right.
Inside, you've got two travelers. There's the thinking brain, that's our rational, analytical mind. It's slow, careful. It's the navigator with the maps.
Okay, the navigator.
And then there's the feeling brain. That's our emotional, intuitive mind. It's fast, impulsive, and crucially, it's the one driving the car.
Ah, okay. So the classic assumption had it backwards. It thought the thinking brain was driving, and the feeling brain was just this annoying passenger.
Exactly. Manson flips it. The feeling brain is behind the wheel. We are fundamentally moved to action by how we feel.
So when we don't do something we know we should, it's because we just don't feel like it.
Pretty much. That deadline you blow off, that's an emotional problem. The workout you skip, emotional problem. Avoiding that tough conversation, emotional problem. What we call laziness or lack of willpower. Manson argues it's almost always rooted in how we feel about doing the thing.
And that's tricky because you can't just logic your way out of feelings, can you?
Nope. You can't use a spreadsheet to cure anxiety.
Yeah.
You can't deploy an algorithm to fix heartbreak. The thinking brain, the navigator, can see the map. It can say, hey, Gym Avenue leads to health, Couch Street leads to regret.
But it can't grab the steering wheel.
It can't force the feeling brain to turn towards the gym. It's like that other analogy, the elephant and the rider. The rider thinking brain can suggest a direction, but the elephant feeling brain is huge and powerful and ultimately goes where it wants.
Okay, I get that. But what happens when this relationship goes wrong?
Well, it can get messy. The thinking brain, instead of just navigating, can become the feeling brain's accomplice, its lawyer.
It's enabler.
Yeah, exactly. It uses all its smarts to justify whatever the feeling brain desires in the moment. That's the self-serving bias cranked up to 11. You want that extra slice of cake.
My thinking brain immediately pipes up. You had a rough day. You deserve it. It's just one slice. You'll totally start that diet tomorrow.
Precisely. We're all masters at that internal negotiation. And when that dynamic goes totally off the rails, when the thinking brain only serves the feeling brain's whims, that's what Manson calls the clown car.
The clown car? Doesn't sound good.
It's not. Life becomes driven purely by instant gratification, by whatever feels good right now. Reality gets twisted to fit those feelings. Values. Out the window.
And where does the clown car usually end up?
Addiction, narcissism, compulsion. People stuck in this mode are really vulnerable to manipulation. They'll follow anyone or anything that promises good feelings. And scary part, their thinking brain will rationalize anything, even hurting others, to satisfy the feeling brain. Oh, they had it coming. I needed to do that.
It's like the thinking brain gets Stockholm Syndrome. It can't even imagine disagreeing with the feeling brain anymore.
That's a great way to put it. It loses its independence. You see this exploited in cults, right? Encouraging people to stop thinking critically because it feels good to just let go, but mistaking feels good for is actually good. That's the trap.
So historically, maybe that classic assumption trying to leash the emotions with reason Maybe it served a purpose. When life was harsher, maybe curbing impulses was necessary for survival.
Possibly. When immediate gratification could lead to starvation or getting eaten, maybe society needed to drill in discipline and duty over feeling. But today, in our relative comfort, we've kind of swung the other way.
We've had movements celebrating feelings, pushing back against repression, which is good. Liberation is good, but
But some took it too far, believing feelings are the only guide, dismissing logic entirely, which doesn't lead to enlightenment, it just leads to a different kind of love. Clown Car may be more self-absorbed, mistaking shallow pleasure for real meaning.
so you end up with these two dead ends. Repress your feelings. You end up like Elliot, numb, indifferent, nihilistic. Why bother? Overindulge your feelings. You end up in the clown car, chasing highs, feeling empty, desperate. Both are fundamentally crises of hope.
Which brings us to the big question. If willpower is bunk and just fighting your feelings doesn't work,
Yeah.
what do you do? How do you actually get stuff done?
Right. What's the alternative?
The path forward, according to Manson, isn't about controlling the feeling brain. It's about understanding it, respecting it, and learning to work with it.
He has that section framed as an open letter to your thinking brain,
Right.
sort of acknowledging how frustrating it is to deal with the feeling brain's chaos.
Exactly. And he reveals the thinking brain's real superpower. It's not self-control, it's meaning control. Your thinking brain is uniquely equipped to interpret, understand, and make sense of what the feeling brain is putting out.
Okay, meaning control. How does that work in practice?
The key language isn't logic, it's empathy. Instead of yelling facts at your feeling brain, you idiot, exercise is good for you, look at this chart, you approach it gently, with curiosity.
Like, hey, feeling brain, how are we actually feeling about maybe putting on running shoes right now?
Exactly. And then you listen. Really listen. Maybe the answer is, tired, don't wanna, feel lazy. Okay, acknowledge that. Don't argue. Yeah, I hear you. Feeling tired sucks.
Just letting the feeling be heard? Does that help?
It does. Just airing it out often reduces its intensity. Then, instead of fighting, you negotiate. But you negotiate using positive feelings.
So not do this because it's logical, but remember how good it feels afterwards. That sense of accomplishment, that inner
Precisely. Or appealing to deeper values. Remember how good it feels to act like the kind of person who takes care of themselves? It's like bargaining. You
Right.
got to make the feeling brain feel like it's getting something good out of the deal.
And start small.
Super small. Don't aim for the whole workout. Just, okay, we feel tired. How about just putting on the shoes? Just the shoes. See how that feels. If that's okay, maybe walk to the end of the driveway. Tiny steps. Constant check-ins. Offering compromises.
The key is, do not pick a fight with the feeling brain.
Absolutely not. You'll lose. And you'll just make it dig its heels in more next time. It reinforces the resistance.
So this whole process, this internal dialogue, checking in, acknowledging, gently guiding with empathy. This is what psychologists call emotional regulation.
Pretty much. It's not about squashing emotions, it's learning to navigate them, like building internal guardrails, not walls. It's hard work, it takes practice, you'll mess up.
Yeah.
But it's a skill you develop.
And that feeling of self-control, like the thing we thought was about willpower. It's actually what happens when this process works, when the two brains are aligned.
Exactly. It happens when your thinking brain and your feeling brain are pulling together because they're oriented around the same core values. The thinking brain uses its meaning control superpower to frame things in a way that resonates emotionally based on those shared values.
Lazio even argued the feeling brain develops its own kind of intelligence, right?
Exactly.
Based on these value judgments, good, bad, desirable, undesirable.
Yes, and crucially, based on what we unconsciously believe we deserve or don't deserve.
So that's maybe the real sticking point for a lot of us.
It often is. Your thinking brain knows facts. Smoking is bad. Saving money is good. But your feeling brain operates on these deeper values and beliefs about deservingness. I deserve this cigarette because life is hard. Or maybe I don't really feel like I deserve to be healthy, wealthy, happy.
And you can't just throw facts at that deeper feeling and expect it to change.
Right. Intellectually, you know what to do. But if, deep down, your feeling brain is operating from a place maybe from old wounds, past experiences where it feels unworthy of the good outcome, it might unconsciously sabotage things. It seeks what feels familiar, even if familiar is painful.
Wow. So the real problem isn't usually an uninformed thinking brain. It's often an uneducated or maybe wounded feeling brain, one that's learned some unhelpful values about itself.
That seems to be a big part of it. So psychological growth isn't just about changing thoughts, like in standard CBT. It's also about clarifying your values and gently helping your feeling brain align with them, building that internal trust and empathy, getting its sense of deservingness recalibrated.
It's not that your navigator doesn't know the safe route. It's that the driver might feel like it deserves to crash.
That's a stark way to put it, but yeah, sometimes it feels like that's the dynamic.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
that leaves us with something pretty heavy to think about.
For sure. If self-control isn't about reason dominating emotion, but about this careful negotiation between the thinking brain and the feeling brain, aligning around values, what does that mean for your own struggles?
Maybe when you keep failing at something you know you should do. Maybe it's not just weakness. Maybe there's a deeper, quieter emotional verdict being rendered. A feeling that you don't actually deserve the thing your rational mind wants. What hidden value judgment, what feeling about your own worthiness might your feeling brain be clinging to?